hate this transcription stuff. Can I turn this off?
For now.
Okay.
We'll
Yeah.
go for, to select
All right.
users.
All right. All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Hey, we're back, baby. We're doing it live. Well, live for us doing a podcast.
We're doing it live.
That's right. We're doing it live, baby. We're doing it live, unless people are listening to this and, well, it's actually recorded. But just pretend it's live.
Right now, it's live for you and I. I am looking
right now,
at you. It's live.
This is live. There's so many jokes out there that we could use for this podcast edition. You know what this is? This is the one we've been talking about for a while. This is the Cincinnati Takeover Edition 2025. Steve Sullivan, the Chancellor of Scott Beer, Scott Turon.
What up?
Man, we did it. We conquered. We made it.
We conquered. We survived. That was a big thing.
Surviving is always a good thing.
We're going to make it through the 8 days. Actually, we had no doubts, did we? I mean,
that's right.
It really wasn't even that hard.
No, it actually wasn't.
No, we just did what we do.
That's right. We cruised on through.
Mm-hmm.
We took the annual trip to Cincinnati, and this is a 2-part episode. This episode, we are talking all things that we did in Cincinnati. I got my little Reds hat on here. Red shirt, go Reds, you know?
Man, do you own any other clothing?
I don't know. Probably not. Everything is red back here. I know. But yeah, we took over Ohio, in fact. The podcast after this one, we'll be talking about our trip to Cleveland and where else? Akron, Cleveland, Columbus, Louisville,
yeah.
Louisville, however you pronounce it.
Yeah, we did a lot, and hence the 2-parters, and we have a lot of content here.
A lot of stories, a lot of content.
We'll kind of break it up into 2 different treks, shall we say. The Cincinnati one, and then part 2 would kind of be Cleveland, Akron, Columbus, Louisville.
We're gonna get our buddies, the Hill Tappers.
Oh yeah,
Tom and Brad, to talk to us about the correct pronunciation one day for the city in which they live. But hey,
by the way, it won't be long because they're coming on with us at some point.
They are. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about our trip. You know what? I know we're also going to be talking about beer in Cincinnati tradition. A brewery we're going to be talking about. I have the Rhinegeist here. It is a hazy IPA. It is Mysticor.
Ooh.
So, kicking that off on the Cincinnati Takeover Edition 2025.
Well, cheers to that.
Yes,
I have got one that I brought back from part of our trip. It's called Lean West Double IPA from Masthead Brewing. We got from our friends Keith and Elizabeth. Yeah, so one of our beers in our beer trade. So I'm going to start with that, but I have others that we're going to get to.
Awesome. Well, Masthead was certainly on the list, and you'll be hearing more about them in the next podcast coming up. But you know, we have to talk about our trip and everything that we did, and we'll go through a lot of different things. Basically, it spanned about 5 days, the week before Memorial Day, and what a trip it was. We're gonna give you some stats at the end, and I want to begin talking about this because, you know, going up, we had a semblance of a plan, of trying to hit different breweries.
A pretty good one. I mean, we had stuff written down.
We had stuff written. Yeah, we actually had a Google sheet, stuff written down. And the plan was, all right, so we're going to be going up there on a Friday. We're going to be there Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then leaving on a Wednesday. And I was like, you know what? Let's try to hit like the north, the south, the east, and the west. And we sort of accomplished that goal, most of them.
We did.
Of course, we didn't accomplish the goal of hitting every brewery in the north, south, east, and west because we would not be alive at this point. We would not be doing this live because we wouldn't be alive if we hit every brewery in Cincinnati.
We wouldn't. Look, we could well, you couldn't hit everyone. We could have hit everything on our list if we just ran in and did beer and ran back out again. We don't do that. We like to enjoy where we're at a lot of times too. So hence not getting to everything on the list.
That's true. If we just ran into every brewery in the quadrant area that we went in, you could run in, you could get one beer and say, all right, give me your Mexican lager. I'm out of here. And I'll grab it on the run, and then I'm going to, brewery number 575, because that's how many breweries are up there.
Right.
Not exactly that many, but there are a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but we don't do that. We really do, and you'll hear this in our stories in this episode of the next one. But we like to go in places, especially when we really like the place and we haven't been, and enjoy them. Of course, we go to places we've been to as well too that we know that we enjoy, and we're going to spend time there too.
That was one of the goals. So there are always certain breweries that we know when we go up that we're going to hit. I mean, I'm drinking Rhinegeist. Yes, we're going to go to Rhinegeist. We're probably going to go to Braxton, which we did. Sonder. There's others, Listermann. And it's interesting because I know you talk to people, I talk to people, and they'll say, did you go here? Did you go there? Go here, go there. And there's a couple of breweries that are always on the list that I hear about. One of them is Third Eye, and they have 2 locations, one in Sharonville and the other one in Hamilton. We did not get to Third Eye.
Right.
Bad us.
Right. But not this time. Not this time.
But
yes. Right.
We've been to Third Eye before, and we are going to get there again. That was actually on our hope to get to list, and we did not get to Third Eye. The other brewery that we did not get to was Streetside. We went there last year briefly.
Yeah.
We had hoped to get there again.
And that was a little higher on our list than even Third Eye because we'd only spent a small amount of time there the last time.
It was, yeah. And we will we'll talk a little bit about what happened that made us bypass Streetside. But that's okay. And we were talking, I remember we were kind of like coming back from our trip and talking about what are some of the ones that we want to try to get to in the future. And I know like Nine Giant, their fermentorium. We've not been to that one. We actually went to their brewery a few years ago, and the fermentorium we were hoping to get to. And so it's kind of like, okay, that's going to be on the list in the future. We know north of town, like we basically have gone as far as like north. We've gone up near Sonder. We haven't ventured above there. And it was funny because we were coming back from Columbus the one day, and I was showing you, I'm like, these are the areas that I think, are some breweries that one of these days we're going to have to get to, and we're going to just have to stay up here or do something.
Spend a day.
Yeah, because there's so many different ones. Warped Wing and Common Beer Company and Cartridge. There's so many different breweries, even some I'm not even mentioning. And, between like Cincinnati, Middletown, Dayton, Hamilton, Westchester, there are so many breweries over that way that eventually we will get to, and we knocked off the list. But, buddy, we knocked off a lot of breweries.
Yeah. So that being said, for the places we didn't get to, there's a whole bunch we did get to.
That's right. So whether it's new or whether it's old, we definitely got into some other breweries as well. And before we get into some of the stuff that we did, there is something that I just noticed as we were up there and as we were planning, and we actually took advantage of this. And I don't know how new of a thing this is. And we've talked about, the brewery experience. And I think this is a really cool thing for people. If maybe you live in the Cincinnati area and you've not done this, or you're going to go up there, is the number of breweries up there that now have brunch options.
Yeah. There was no shortage of it. And we were getting them like earlier in the week. You know how it is? Some places are, don't have, their hours are weird early in the week, like a Monday, Tuesday, or a Sunday, or they're not even open. But we were finding places. You did a lot of research on that before we went up there, so we knew places to go. But yeah, there's plenty of that stuff up that way, like for every day of the week, because we covered a whole week, so we had to account for every day.
like every day of the week. So now you have breweries that again, maybe this has happened for a number of years. I'm not sure, but like for example, like Sonder, they do a brunch on the weekends. Third Eye, I know Esoteric does. I think Moorline Lager House has done it for a number of years. I went to a brunch with our good friends Keith and Elizabeth in Cleveland, and Liz, who we hope to get on our podcast episode, Every Day Our Bubbling. But, we all went to a brunch at Mad Tree downtown the last time I was in town. And Mad Tree actually opened up another location over in Summit Park in the Blue Ash area not long ago, where they serve breakfast and like a brunch every day of the week. So you're just seeing like the brewery experience with a lot of breweries up in that area that are just really, really expanding even more.
Yeah, we've talked about it with drinks at breweries and stuff, and something for everyone. That's another option. That's another thing. It's another part of the experience, as you said. That was a vacation spot for us. It's a vacation spot for other people too. The weather's getting nice.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of families out, didn't we? At all sorts of places. Went, whether it would be a Monday morning or a Sunday afternoon, everybody was out. So you've got to have something for people to come out to, and there's a lot of places doing that.
Well, and I even said we'll get to our brunch at Sonder here in a couple of minutes, but I said, you know what? Let's just start at Sonder. Do brunch. It takes out the middleman.
All you got to do from where we were, all we had to do was drive north for a bit, start out, right? It was a little further out that we start there, and man, just had a nice base. We had a nice meal, biggest egg sandwich I've ever seen in my life. And delicious. We'll get to that. But then you got your beer, and then right next, like the window over, is your food. It's pretty great.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll get into it here in a minute, but I also wanted to mention that while we were away, and I think we had posted a mention about this, George Wendt passed away while we were up there in Ohio. And for people that are wondering, who the heck is George Wendt? Maybe you don't know. If you drink beer, you probably do. You knew him from Norm from Cheers.
Norm.
And Norm passed away. And I remember that he had an Ohio connection up there. So there was the mayor years ago in Hamilton, Ohio, which is right between Cincinnati and Dayton. His name was Greg Jolivet, and he was the mayor of Hamilton. His brother-in-law was George Wendt, and he brought him in one time for a campaign event. I wasn't there, but a buddy of mine who works up there on radio got to meet him, and he actually posted a picture the other day of it. So yeah, there's your Ohio connection with good old Norm, George Wendt.
I didn't know this until literally that happened, that Jason Sudeikis is his nephew.
I didn't know that either. Yeah.
Ted Lasso himself. That's his nephew. I guess I learned that while we were up there. So
yeah,
kind of cool. And then just a little sidebar: we were at the Airbnb in Cleveland, and you would turn the channel on one morning, and it was like Cheers was on, and we just left it on for like 2 days. It was like episode 1, and it just kept going right on there, and it was a great thing to watch because I hadn't seen that show in forever, and it was kind of timely.
Pretty sure the first time that you and I have ever traveled, we actually turned on the television.
Turn the TV on, yeah.
Turn the TV on, yeah. We just had a few an hour or two to kill before we were heading out that morning, so it was kind of a cool thing. But any other notes that you want to talk about? Anything you want to talk about before we kind of get into our case?
I have a question for you. So you are on a tour.
Mm-hmm.
You are currently on a West Coast IPA tour. So the fact that you could take a break from your tour and do this podcast tonight is cool, because you got to check in. I know you're busy on this tour, and you were part of this tour in Cincinnati, but now you're off somewhere else. I'm not quite sure where you are. You're in this tour again. So just checking in.
Traveling city to city.
We don't know where he is right now. He's
on the West Coast
else.
IPA tour. Look for Steve. Yeah. He's everywhere.
So, as a general question, how's it going? How is the general question? How is the West Coast IPA tour going?
The West Coast IPA tour is going pretty darn good.
Is that right?
It is.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of breweries that I got some West Coast IPAs that we're going to talk about in Cincinnati.
We're going to get some insight into the tour.
Mm-hmm. I think you were there. I think you may have witnessed it.
I didn't know what was going to come out in this episode, so we're going to get some bits and pieces of the tour. Okay,
we're going to get some insight on some of the West Coast IPAs that I rated and may have rated pretty high at certain breweries in Cincinnati.
Yep. What I saw, there's been a progression in this West Coast IPA tour of the stuff you've been drinking. So
I'm telling you, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So
it's good.
All right, you ready to kind of get into what we did up there, my friend?
Let's go. It's taken me 3 days to put in all the shit we've done.
God, so many
in the 8 days. But anyway, we've got them down. I'm ready. Let's go.
I know. I had to do like a book report because I had to go back into my Untapped app the last couple of days. You saw me rating other beers. And what's going on here? And I'm like, because I forgot. I mean, I get caught up in the moments of drinking the beer at breweries and the conversation and taking pictures and having a lot of laughs and seeing people that sometimes you go, oh heck, I forgot to rate this particular beer.
Yep. By the way, another quick note. After this trip that we've just took, we've already talked about, your Untapped numbers have skyrocketed.
Well, they're not on your level. Not even.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. My point is, you are getting very close, my friend, to 1,000 unique check-ins. Oh. And I think you're over 950, and you've picked up a few that you drank and that you remember to put in there. So you are on a short-term track to 1,000. You are going to be there very, very soon. If we took another trip like this next week, you'd be there in 3 days.
I'd be there soon. Yeah.
You'd be there soon. But anyway, all eyes on Steve as he approaches his 1,000th unique check-in. This won't be the last you hear about it.
Well, and to those of you that have a lot more, it's probably not that impressive, but I'll let you talk it up, my friend, as much as you want.
Well, it is because I remember going to my 1,000. 1,000's a big friggin' number, and you get a special badge for it. So I'm excited for you to get that 1,000.
Especially since I was late to the party over the years of actually rating beers.
Yeah.
So
now you're at the point. Now you're at the point where you go back after the trip and find the beers you forgot to rate that you drank. So I love that.
I mean, we're recording this like 4 or 5 days after we got back. And even last night, I'm sitting there going, oh, gosh, I forgot another one.
Steve's checking in beers on Untapped. I go, did he go back?
He had to go back. That's why we take pictures. To Mass?
Yeah.
That's why I go in. That's why I go in and I take pictures of the board and I take pictures of my flight. Most of the time, it doesn't always happen, but most of the time that we try to do that or whatever I'm drinking, whether it's a flight or a pint or, a half pour or whatever it is. Yep. So, yeah.
Well, at this point, every beer counts because, again, you're less than 50 away from 1,000. So
awesome. We'll get there soon. We're going to get there soon.
All right.
Well, the day we went up there was Friday, May the 16th, and it was kind of a crazy day because the theme of this trip, and especially the theme we'll really get into it on the Cleveland trip, was a lot of rain. And that should come as no surprise because it seems like everybody that's either lived in Nashville or lived in Ohio or lived everywhere, all it's been doing for the past couple of weeks is rain. I mean, it's just been like rain nonstop. And we encountered a lot of rain on our way up, like through Louisville or Louisville. However you pronounce it. Now I'm going to become real conscious about it. That city in Kentucky that hosts the Kentucky Derby. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. But yeah. We were actually wondering if they were going to get the Reds game in on that Friday because there was like some really, really bad weather that was coming.
It didn't look good.
It did not. It did not look good. So we got up there, and of course, we always, most of the time, have to christen every trip with a kickoff of Skyline Chili, probably for lunch, which we did. And
which I'm on board with, by the way. I didn't know, for the record, I'm on board. When we go up that way, I look forward to that first Skyline Chili stop. This one was a little further than like.
I had even mentioned, like, if we're pressed for time, we can like skip the Skyline Chili and just go there another time, like at the ballpark, and
God forbid.
Yeah, and you were like, no, absolutely
No,
not.
no. We can't have that hanging over our heads the whole trip.
We can't. It's funny though. I thought about this. I have checked off a lot of Skyline Chili locations in Cincinnati. This was a new Skyline Chili location for me in Erlanger, Kentucky,
Yeah.
which is probably a 10 or 15 minutes from downtown Cincinnati. So hey, man, shout out to the folks at Skyline Chili in Erlanger.
Great little spot, man, and great little spot. We took a little longer to get there than our normal Skyline Chili spot, but well worth it because of the spot that went afterwards where we went.
It was well worth it. Yeah, definitely.
Directly afterwards, so worth the wait. Yeah.
We got the Skyline. I got a text message on my phone as soon as we got the Skyline that the Reds game had been moved up 90 minutes. And we already knew that we were going to be a little bit pressed for time to try to get in things we wanted to get in. And then, it was like, okay, what's our game plan now? Because the game was going to be at 6:40. They moved it up to 5:10. Well, the reason we went to Erlanger was because a last-minute addition that we had on our trip a couple days beforehand, I went, wait a minute. I know of this place called Fabled Brewworks.
Yeah.
Which has been open now. At the time of recording it, I think they're about to celebrate 2 years in existence.
Yep.
And it just hasn't worked out timing-wise to get up there because a lot of times if we've gone up during the week or I've gone up separately, they've not been open yet, or maybe I've just not been able to get there. So they opened up early on a Friday, and we got there. I think we may have been the first ones there. It was in the afternoon. It was probably, about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And Scott, describe for me Fable Brewworks.
Okay.
We posted pictures on Instagram.
Yeah.
We put some videos up.
And so the word fabled has a purpose.
Yeah.
It's like fables and tales and stories and things. And the whole theme is that. Like if you see the pictures on our Instagram, like there are clouds in the sky and they have lightning in and it tells a story. And then there are a couple like cottages coming out from the walls that are built out. There's a hollowed out tree behind the bar with this big kind of opening in it, and everything is kind of fairy tale, not fairy tale, it's stories. It's fables, like Aesop's fables, that kind of thing. And it is so cool. Everything. The theme is like all the beer names are around those. There are things like, let's see, B.A. Alakazam, A Nightmare on Elmore Street. Like everything ties into this theme. Steve, I went to the bathroom and I didn't get pictures because I didn't bring my phone in. The wallpaper was pages of books.
Okay.
With plaster, that was the wallpaper in there. Like every single thing in there had a story or a fable theme to it. It was amazing, was it not?
It was. Unlike any brewery that I've ever been to, as far as uniqueness and, as you say, the story aspect of it. And the other thing I did not realize, I had only been on their website like once or twice before we had gone there, and so I had asked them when I got there. I said, okay, did you guys start out serving craft beer and mead, or was it always that way? And he said, yeah, it was. So the thing that caught my attention was, and again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong after you hear this podcast, I am not currently aware of another brewery up there that does craft beer and mead together that has those options. I do know there's a meadery called All Fathers that's opening nearby in Melbourne, Kentucky. And at the time we're recording this, it's about to open or maybe open. But I don't know. And I did, I did a little bit of search. I just couldn't find any other places up there that you can get mead at other breweries. There probably are. I'm just not aware of them. Yeah. So that was an interesting kind of hook to go in there, because we've talked about the Honey Tree Meadery in Nashville and how we've come to love that. So that was an interesting start to our brewery adventure.
It was, and if and I know the mead that Honey Tree has.
Yeah.
Versus the mead that Fabled has. Like Fabled were more of a, as a matter of fact, something had ice cream kind of in the recipe, so they were like more of a fruited sour type meads.
Yeah.
Versus the mead we're used to at Honey Tree are more of just that wine style. And it's not even a great description, but they don't have those added, adjuncts or whatever. But there were more fruited sours at Fabled, so completely different. You wouldn't even know they were meads, honestly, unless you told me that they were.
Right.
Phenomenal. I mean, the place was great. I mean, we had a peanut butter and jelly. Now that wasn't the mead, that was one of the ales, but they had a peanut butter and jelly on the menu.
They did. The Wicked Witch grape sour fruited, and which I really loved. I rated that a 4.25 on the old Untapped app, and I'll tell you, I had that. I had a couple of their beers as well. I had the Paul Bunyan American Lager, and also had their Red Right Hand, which was a red ale. And then the other mead, we tried a couple other things, but the one that was wild for me that I absolutely love. Now I like coconut in beer. I'd never had coconut in a mead before. And this one was called the Curious Coconut. In fact, Tom from the Hill Tappers, they kind of followed us in the next day, and he's like, we're going to hit some of the breweries where you hit. And I think they'd been to Fable before, and he had it, and I loved it. I mean, I rated that thing a 4.50 on Untappd. I was like, this thing, it was a combination of like coconut and banana. I mean, I absolutely loved it. Now, I say this, and I've said this before with sweet beers, I would not have anything like that other than on a flight.
Right. You couldn't. I mean, could you imagine sitting there drinking a pint of that stuff? You'd be there for 2 hours.
No. In fact, I have a story that's coming up about how it impacted me about an hour later or so. But anyway, continue, sir, on what you got there at that paper.
Well, so remember, we got I think both of us got that PB&J right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And he came back a little bit later, and he gave us another pour of it. It was the same exact one.
Yeah.
But what he had done, he had kind of mixed the keg up a little bit, because the first one we had, it kind of settled all night.
Yeah.
And he kind of mixed it up and gave us another pour of it so we could try it side by side. And there definitely was a little bit of a difference. I think it was probably a little more balanced the second time, just because it was a little more mixed, obviously. So that was cool. And he gave us a sample. I don't know if you remember this one. Rockin' the Rainbow Road, which I think is a Mario Kart tribute.
Yes.
With the Rainbow Road track, which is a fruited Berliner with rainbow sherbet in it. And it was freaking amazing. 4.3 on Untappd. It was freaking killer. Like, you drink it, it's everything it says it is. It's great stuff. It's really great stuff. Dude, I would tell anybody, and I think Hill Tappers kind of told us, hey, you guys at some point have to get to Fabled. I'm going to say the same thing. Get to Fabled. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, you would absolutely love it. And see,
if you don't want that fruited sour stuff, they've got other stuff. They got New England IPAs. I had a pale ale. They got a red ale. You can get various things. We just tried kind of everything.
Yeah, and then I also had I'd also gotten the Dawn Treater, which was another mead, and so I was like going mead crazy there, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to try this. So it had like strawberries and oranges and like passion fruit in it. I liked it. I think after some of those other ones, the whole thing kind of reminded me last year. Remember we went to the Melted Snow Cone kind of collaboration at Southern Grist when they had that, and we all tried like 3 or 4 back to back, and after a while I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, they're heavy. You certainly can't see through them. Like, there's definitely like puree and that one with rainbow sherbet. Like, it looks like that stuff is in there, and it is, and they're delicious. But man, you can only take so much.
We can only take so much, but we had such a great time. At Fable. The only thing was.
Yeah, great service too. The bartender, and forgive me, I forgot his name. Man, he was nice to us, and he was like, "Here, try this and try this," and we just started talking, and just like you go anywhere and you start talking beer with someone, man, you start speaking the language, and people just warm up to you, and it's just a great time.
Yeah, extremely knowledgeable about the whole scene in Cincinnati and the beer scene and the brewery scene, and we had a great time. And time though was not on our side because we were like, okay, we were there for probably an hour. It's kind of unusual for us to stay anywhere for an hour. But you know what? We went to a place where we went to the next place that was even less than an hour.
Yeah. Well, we left there. We had to go drop our stuff at the Airbnb. So we got rid of our stuff. We got all that shit done and then continue. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we got to the Airbnb. We're Ubering. And I mean, I'm looking at like traffic and I'm going, are we going to get there? Are we going to get there? So the original plan was to hit town. We were going to hit Fabled. And then we thought, we'll have plenty of time to kick off the pregame activities at Rhinegeist, one of our favorite breweries.
Yeah, hang out as long as we want.
Hang out on the rooftop. We'll have about 2 to 2.5, 3 hours.
Well, plenty of time. Shit, no rush.
Scott, what happened?
What happened? Okay, so we had to kind of plan it because it was like, all right, we kind of knew we don't have a lot of time, but we are going to Rhinegeist, and we still had to get to the ballpark.
Yes.
Which we knew we weren't driving to. So, okay. So the best way, really, the most efficient way to get to the ballpark from Rhinegeist ultimately is the tram. So
that's right.
the tram, because it literally goes out front. So yes, we went to Rhinegeist after that. We knew we would be limited on time. We had at least one beer. We had one beer.
Only limited that I looked at the clock and it was around 4:00 when we got in and the game was at 5:10. And we got our beer. I got the Cincy Light Lime, which I really loved. And it's about 4:25. And I said, man, I don't think we have time for another, especially if we're taking the lovely streetcar.
That's right. And the thing is, like, there's no time. It's not like it comes in 4:12 every day. It's every so often, right? You don't even know when the last time was. It's roughly. Look, now it's game time. Now the game's been moved up. And I was like, we got time for one more. And luckily, I listened to you, and we cashed out. We went outside, and what was it? 3 minutes later, we could hear the bell. We heard the bell coming. Like, oh yeah, this worked out perfect. So we caught the tram.
Gotta go. Well, and the streetcar, I think it's the furthest point. That's how far up. So for people who aren't familiar, the Cincinnati streetcar, you like to call it the trolley. Trolley, streetcar, whatever you want.
I'll call it 4 or 5 different things before this is over.
The free transportation that gets you around.
Tram. Yeah, that's right.
It takes you around basically a couple of points in Cincinnati, like down what they call the banks, by the ballpark up near over the Rhine where Rhinegeist is. But it's sort of the further point. I really wish we had a camera. We had a camera. We were taking pictures, but we should have videotaped our experience on the trolley because there were jokes for days. After all that mead that I had, I started going in. I'm sitting there going, I think I might be going into a bit of a small diabetic coma here on the trolley. It really wasn't that big of a deal, but it was sort of funny. And I remember sitting on the trolley and I'm thinking to myself, this trolley, it stops like every 200 feet. Can we get out and push this thing a little bit further?
There's a couple of spots along the way you can walk faster than the trolley.
You can walk faster than the trolley.
In a few spots, yeah.
But you know what? We love the trolley. It's the second year that they've taken it.
Well, it also the best part about it though, when you get there, it does let you off. I mean, a block down from the ballpark, so you can't park as easily. Even the Uber, we've Ubered down there before, and you're still walking further away because they can't get to the damn thing. So the ride there aside, which actually wasn't as bad this time because the game had got moved up and a lot of people couldn't make the tram because they couldn't get there on time. It wasn't as busy, but it does stop every 200 feet.
It does.
But it lets you off. I mean, almost at the front door. So I mean, it's pretty hard to be any more efficient than that.
No, it's a fun ride. It's a fun time down.
No, we didn't take it back. We didn't take it back.
But we made it. We made it just in time for the Reds game, and
it was actually perfect, Steve. We walked in at like 5:00. We walked in the building at 5:00, so we were great.
Yeah, we did. So, so we went to the Reds game, and I'll just mention this real quick. So the Reds game, as you know, I mentioned this last year on the podcast. We do one of the reasons we go up there, and I go up there, is my family and I, we do a Reds outing every year at Great American Ballpark. We do it for my brother Mike, who passed away about 11 years ago. And my cousins and I, we always get together and we remember him. Mike Sullivan's safe at home night at the ballpark. And it was a great time, of course. And my cousin Kevin is the ringleader. And thanks, Kevin. We love you.
Thanks, Kevin. I always love
Kevin.
Kevin.
Us up with the tickets.
He hooks up with tickets and then wants to buy us beer when we get in there. Like, hey, man, let us buy you a beer.
Wants to buy us beer. The bad thing that night was there were supposed to be about 16 of my cousins that were going to come, but half the ballpark was empty because, they had to move the game up a lot earlier. And so some of my cousins came a little bit later in the game. Some of them couldn't make it. I mean, one of my cousins came and it was like, seventh inning because they lived up in Mason. They were trying to come into town and hit some traffic and things like that. But it was still good nights out of my brother. So that was, that was a lot of fun. The Reds won that night.
They did.
Go Reds. Yeah.
First of 3 of that series.
I know. Beat the Cleveland Indians. You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati. That's right. But no, we had a.
That was the old Sam White's, right? Was that Sam White's? Yeah,
exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go.
No, we had a fun time, and the cool thing was, Great American Ballpark up there. They do have a lot of great beer on tap, and that was my first check-in of the Great Lakes Midwest Hazy IPA, which is fairly new beer. And of course, we're going to be talking about Great Lakes on our next podcast. We still got something out there about Great Lakes, a little petition drive that people need to sign, right?
Yeah, we're gonna make a push on that in the next episode, really hard.
That's right. Sign it for us, people. Sign it for us. But no, that was great. I did have another beer that night, and I don't remember what it was. And I
don't either. I'm the same way.
No, I had another beer that night at the game. I just don't even remember what it was, and I didn't take pictures or anything like that. So.
Well, I can guarantee, because it was the same for me, it wasn't a new one. So, you can rate it, but it wouldn't help your numbers necessarily. So I'm with you. I just had the one, but I had the same thing. I had the Hazy Midwest IPA too, which was pretty great, pretty damn great. That was the first place I had it was Great American Ballpark.
Yeah, same here.
Hey, continue on with the game, because right after the game was over, because all this weather was going to move in, what happened immediately after the game was over? Because it was a Friday night, and what happens on Friday nights after the game?
Oh, they have fireworks, and I think the game ended. It was probably at about maybe 7:30. Because I even said, we were talking about it's like the umpires are going to get this game over. The managers aren't going to go out and argue any calls. There's not going to be any pitching changes. They're getting this game over with, because by the time it looked like it was probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. You could tell there was a sea of clouds coming into downtown Cincinnati.
And the wind was picking up.
It looked like it was going to ravage hell on the weather. And as soon as the game ended, man, those fireworks went off. I'm not even sure they called whatever it is, they call strike 3 or whatever, and the fireworks are going off, and it's like, good night, everybody, we're out of here. So
not only are they going off, it's still broad daylight.
It's broad daylight.
Which is the funniest part of the thing. But hey, man, people stuck around to watch them. People did not leave until those fireworks were done. No,
but great call, because we have sat there before. There's nothing worse than sitting at a baseball ballpark and you have a rain delay that goes on for hours and hours and hours. So
which if they hadn't moved it up, which looked like it was going to happen, they would have started the game on time, I think, but middle of the way, weather would have broken, or lightning or something, right? And then delay, and then you're stuck there, and that kind of thing. But the game got in, and we were all the better for it.
That's right. They got the game in, so we got out of there, and we went to seek refuge in one of our favorite places down there at Yard House.
So did everybody else, by the way.
And we went down there. We're like, you know what? Let's not even try to bother Ubering anybody anywhere right now. Let's just go about 100 yards down the way, run in the Yard House, sit in there for a while. It never actually did storm. in that area. I mean, there was a lot of bad weather, I think, that went south of Cincinnati. We got pretty lucky that night, but we kind of ended the night at Yard House.
We did. And I remember talking to the staff in there, and I kind of asked them about the whole, because a lot of times we pregame at Yard House. We did not this time, obviously, but I said, what does the moving up the game do for you guys? And they said it kind of sucks because they don't have staff ready to come on for a 5-10 game. So they got real busy ahead of time. They were real busy afterwards. So they're kind of playing catch up the whole time. But hey, they did a great job. We love Yard House. We got taken care of, and they kicked ass. They always do. And we always appreciate them. You can't beat the location from the ballpark.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the theme of the whole day after we got done was a few things, but the biggest was, can we really only go to Rhinegeist for only a half hour?
Should we leave them in suspense and see if we ever got back?
Did we ever go back there?
We went back. Okay. Spoiler, we went back.
Spoiler, did we go?
Not directly, but it's coming. Yeah, it's coming.
Did we actually go back? Well, the other funny thing was, I said, of all the times I've been up there for anything, whether I've gone up there and, I'm like visiting family and I'm in a hurry, I don't know if there's ever a brewery that I've gone to, even when I've been in a hurry, that I've only lasted a half hour. And of all places, it's like, how many people can say they went to Rhinegeist? You only went in there for a half hour and you got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah. The way I look at it, though, it was a bonus stop. We knew we were going to spend time there eventually. We got a bonus stop. We snuck in one more is kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
If we didn't go back, I'd have been like, shit, we only got Rhinegeist once. But we snuck another one in along the way.
We did.
Yeah, so, that's how I'm looking at it.
So yeah, it was a pretty awesome day, on that Friday, and then Saturday we got up and we had the plan. I always loved this plan because we were going to go to a Reds game on that Saturday night, and this was May 17th. And I always think like the Northern Kentucky Loop, kind of the South Loop, so to speak, is a really great area because there are so many breweries over there. You've got Braxton, you got West Six, you got Darkness, you've got Wooden Cask, Hawkbar House. I mean, I'm probably not even mentioning everything.
Right.
But it is a bounty of options. And there was even a craft beer festival down the street from Braxton that we didn't even go to, but we knew about when we got up there.
Yeah, because we had other things to do.
Yeah.
And I say better things to do because we were going to the breweries directly. So,
well, that's true.
Do I love beer fest? And of course I do. I live for that. But fuck, when you go to the damn brewery directly, it's like, let's just go do that.
It's like, yeah, your beer fest, it's great, yeah. But we're our whole goal today is breweries, so we're going to breweries.
Let's go to the source, right? And so you mentioned Braxton. We go to Braxton first on that Saturday, right after breakfast, which was Press on Monmouth, by the way. We always like that place.
Love it. Yep.
But we go to Braxton first because you know what we love about Braxton, Steve?
I would say you can sit up on something called the Rooftop there in Covington.
Yeah. Whoop. Oh, shit. Okay. I'm being brought chocolate. We don't have to leave this in, but can you bring a bottle of whiskey? Thank you. Here, you can put me. Any of the whiskey awards is fine. Thank you. We'll go back to this.
There you go.
Okay. Sorry. Somebody busted through the bathroom door. I didn't know what was happening.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Third world problem.
Yeah. So we love going to Braxton, Steve. And why do we love going to Braxton?
Because Braxton in Covington, they've got that rooftop.
Yes, they do.
And yes, we score all day long on the Braxton rooftop. Anytime we can ever go there, we can. And the first thing I noticed when we were walking in the door, I said, you know what? Since the last time I was here and last time you were there, it's more spacious outside now. I mean, they've got a lot of comfortable chairs out there and everything else. And
you're talking about right in the front when you walk in.
In the front, yeah. And I don't know if they just expanded that and they just started doing it, probably because the place is always crowded. So we get in there and we got up on the rooftop. I will say on this day, It was a little more windy than usual. It's a good thing that I don't wear a toupee or anything like that, because by God, my toupee would have blown off that day on the rooftop.
Yeah, yeah, it was windy. Still a beautiful day otherwise. Um, there were some benefits to the windy. We'll just leave that alone. But we saw,
I see what you did there. Yes, sir.
yeah. I'll probably cut that out at some point. But you know what? When I was making notes about this today, Steve, I was remembering we are always one of the first people at Braxton when we go. Every time we go, we are one of the first people in there. We're always there right around when they open.
Yeah, it seems like it works out that way. I think we were there. I think they opened about 11. We got there probably between 11:30 and noon.
Yeah, a handful of people were kind of, we had our pick of spots up on the rooftop, which were great. And it filled in quite a bit right afterwards. It looked like there were a lot of graduation parties or something going on, and it filled in quite a bit up there. Everybody had the same idea we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Again, aside from the wind, it was a beautiful day and a great way to start the day, just up on a rooftop. And every time I go, and I tell you this every time I go, and I'm going to do it one day, I want to take a nap up there. I just want to take a nap for 30 or 40 minutes on the Braxton rooftop.
Yeah, they're right next to there. There's some condos, and I always think that maybe that would be like the perfect place if you're working from home or something. That somebody comes in and you're working from your condo, you could just walk up there and sit in one of the lounge chairs and just doze off.
I know, and they got music going, right? And those days we've been up there and there's been nobody there, and we sit there like it's just a nice, beautiful day. It's like 72. The music's in the background, and like it's just quiet. Like, just give me a hammock.
Yeah, and just give me a hammock. Let me just sit here. Yeah, I know. So there was I got a flight from this place, and you know what? I did get a West Coast lager on my flight from Braxton.
Right. Okay.
Now, wasn't my favorite of the entire trip, but it was pretty good. They're classic West Coast lager, so I got that. The other one I want to talk about was, Braxton, they usually do each year a collab with Grater's Ice Cream. Last year they did that lemon meringue pie, which was off the charts, fantastic for me.
Spectacular, yeah.
When I saw the one that they had on tap, I had to ask the guy that was working there, and I'm like, so this would have been even way before I started rating my beers, and I think this was their very first collab that they ever did. It's Grater's Blackberry Chocolate Chip Milk Stout. And I'm sorry, it's the Black Raspberry Chocolate Chip Milk Stout is what I meant to say. And I remember the first time I had it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure about this. And I was wondering what it would be like again after a few years. Did they do anything different, anything like that? Now, I will have to say, of the greatest collabs that I've had, not my most favorite one. I liked it. I could taste more of the the black raspberry. Didn't taste as much of the chocolate in there. A little bit of the ice cream. Not sure if I saw it again, I would necessarily go back for it, but I'm glad I got it.
Yeah, and I think you were in that mindset of, hey, let's see if it's any different, if it's better or worse. Do I think anything different? Is my palate change? Any of that kind of stuff? And to me, it was kind of the same for you, right? It didn't get better, it didn't get worse. It was just kind of the same as you'd had before.
I think I liked it a little bit more than I did.
A little more, okay.
Yeah. I would say it is slightly better than the first time I had it, but that's going back probably 7 or 8 years ago was the first time I had it.
I remember I was talking to an Uber driver about it one of the first times I was up there about it. He didn't have a big opinion on it either. But
yeah,
I didn't get it this time. I thought about getting it. I just stuck with pints on this particular trip. But when they said nothing had really changed, I was like, maybe another time or something. So tried some other things they had. But I'll tell you one that I really liked was they had a Czech lager. It's called Check This Out, Dad.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. I mean, I did 2 lagers. I think I did that same West Coast lager you did, that Czech, and then a Belgian blonde or something. I just did pints. But man, it's just, you could drink, I won't say you could drink Miller Lite on that rooftop, but because I wouldn't. But to be on that rooftop just adds another level of the experience, right? Just it's just
depending on the company, I would drink a Miller Lite on that rooftop.
yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be really good company, but
Yeah, that'd be really good company.
But I guess my point is,
my first question to her would be, "Do you have a beach house?" Okay, I will.
No, she would have already had to have had the beach house for to drink a Miller Lite.
Yeah, exactly. I will drink a Miller Lite with you on the Braxton rooftop. Absolutely.
Yeah. So my point is just ultimately just anything you add anything to that rooftop just makes it better. I mean, it's just a great experience. So anyway.
Yeah. No, I had the check this out, Dad, with Braxton too, and it was really good. So yeah, we spent a couple hours there on the old Braxton rooftop, and they were actually, by the time we got we went on to our second trip, our second brewery of the day. It was probably about 2:30, and it was starting to get really crowded up there. So it's not surprising though. I mean, I think we've been there before. Later in the evening, it's been a while, but man, I think if you go over there, it probably, especially during the summer months, the warmer months, if you go over there, probably 7, 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, man, good luck. I mean, trying to find a spot there. So
yeah, it's hopping. I mean, you can get food there too, so it just adds to the whole thing and it draws people in.
Yeah,
And I know you're getting ready to talk about it, but man, we went to a place right after this that was also spectacular in its own way for multiple reasons. The first reason is because it's around the corner.
It's around the corner, walking distance.
Literally.
I mean, you can almost see it from the brewery.
You can. What's it called?
West 6th. So
Covington House.
Yeah, yes, Covington House. West 6th. They are located out of Lexington, Kentucky. And I had only had like one beer from them before. They had a little setup down at Newport on the Levee, and they may still have that. But they opened up a brewery, right around the corner from Braxton. Yeah. And the first thing that struck me as we were walking up to it, I said, I think this thing used to be a firehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And walked in, asked the girl in there, and she said, yeah, a long time ago. It had been a number of things since that time. And I said to you, this is kind of useless trivia, but this is the third brewery in a year that I've been to that used to be a firehouse.
Yep. So you're on a West Coast IPA and former firehouse road trip?
Yeah, can we just combine all those? That'd be really cool.
It seems we are. No, you're right. The place is beautiful. Like, and it looks like a firehouse. And like you said, it was a few things before that. But man, the layout of it's beautiful. Even the ceiling had wood on the ceiling. Like it was just done up right. And I don't know if that's been there from the previous places, but it's, what, to me, and I said it a few times where we're sitting there, they made an investment in that place. Not just, hey, here's a spot we're going to put some beer in. They plan on being there for a while. Like that is a beautiful, beautiful spot. They have really good beer. I've had West 6 in a few places. I think they're out of Lexington ultimately. I've been to that spot, but man, they're part of the community there. They want to be there. And I think it's a great thing to be around the corner from Braxton. Just exactly like what we did. We left one and we walked to the other one.
Yeah, very, very convenient. And we, when I saw a while back that because they've only been open over the past year or so. And when I saw a while back where the location was, I'm like, well, that's perfect. All we have to do is walk right over there after we go to Braxton. So
we love those things. We've talked about it many times where we love going to a place and there's another place because we're gonna do both places. We're not gonna pick one. We're going to both of them. So, which is exactly what that did. So it added that. And man, they got I don't think it's really part of them, but in the same building. Because I said, is there an upstairs? And she goes, yeah, there's an upstairs. It's called the second story.
Yeah.
So as you go in the front door, you go left into West 6, or you keep going up the stairs and you go into this other place, and it's a cocktail bar.
Yeah.
And what she said, it's called Second Story. It's separate from us. When we kick them out of the brewery at whatever time they close, we send them upstairs to the cocktail place because they're still open. So
yeah. And I won't talk about everything that I had on my on the flight from there. It was all good. There was one that I found to be a little bit wacky. And this one kind of stood out for me. I didn't have too many wacky beers on the entire trip, but this one, basically I went in and I looked at the board. It was kind of sight unseen. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to order. I'm not going to sit there and get on my Untapped app or anywhere else. And because I haven't had that much West 6. So, we're guys that we just like trying different things. This one was called, it was a sour, and it's called the Feisty Fuego. And this thing was whacked out, man. But the funny thing is, I've looked at ratings and other people have rated it higher. Wasn't exactly my thing. I started drinking it, and you expect it to be a sour, but it does say feisty. And then all of a sudden, I went, "What am I tasting? I'm tasting pepper. What the heck?" And I looked at you and I said,
"They had pepper in a sour?
This thing is spicy. It's got pepper in it. It's fruity." And I'm like, "That Feisty Fuego. Okay. The name of that makes sense. Not for me. I doubt I would ever have it again." Everything else, I had a Kolsch, I had a porter, I even had a cider there, and they were all good. But the Feisty Fuego, man, that thing was a wacky beer. I'm sure there are people that love that thing. I was like, nah, I don't know if that's for me, but that's okay. We still enjoyed the experience at West 6th.
They got the name right? The feisty part.
They did.
That kept coming up in our conversation as we were talking about the beer as you were drinking it. Yeah, they came and sampling it. I go, yeah, that's pretty right. It's pretty right.
Yeah, pretty. Yeah. What the heck is going on here?
Yeah. Thank God you didn't get a pint of it. We'd still be there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was like, what the heck is going on here? Yeah.
I'm almost done.
No, I think the other thing is, if I had I opted for the pint, I probably would have opted to do a little more research. But on a flight, sometimes you're like, okay. If it, and I probably could have gone up and said, "Can you just give me a little taster of this?" But we like, sometimes we like doing flights on certain things as well. So it was all right. It all worked out really well.
You can get through 4 ounces.
Yeah, it really wasn't that big of a deal.
It's not. Wow. You can get through 4 ounces. I'll tell you what I did like about it, pretty much every place we've been, but the different styles. I mean, IPAs, lagers, what you just talked about. I had a stout over there. I mean, they had all sorts of styles on the board. So they had some crazy stuff. I had a sour, I think, and Covington House lager. I had a lot of lagers on this trip, but just, kind of something for every kind of beer lover, different styles for different people. So even somebody that, wants a feisty beer.
If somebody wants a Feisty Fuego, go there. Go get it.
That's the place to go. But we really enjoyed it. They had a nice, I don't know, just did they have like tables? So we had a nice little seating area we sat in right there by the front door. Yeah.
Yeah. Very enjoyable. So we
were
over there
cool place.
So we were over there for a little bit, and I knew that there was a decent chance, because as we said at the beginning of this podcast, we're generally not guys, unless we're, in a hurry, that are staying at a brewery for just like an hour. And I knew we probably had time, pregame and before the Reds game, to hit 3 breweries, maybe 4. I want to say Wooden Cask. We love you, Wooden Cask. We've been to Wooden Cask before. We will be back. We didn't make it to Wooden Cask in Newport this particular time.
It was a game time decision.
But the other thing was, the next stop was Darkness over in Bellevue, because I was almost embarrassed. The last time I was in town. I've been up in town. I went to Darkness for the first time, and I had heard so many people tell me, "Why have you not been to Darkness Brewery?" And of course, it's right over by Party Store, so it's like, duh. Why didn't you go there? Why haven't you guys been there? And so that was a definite on the list that we were going to go to Darkness. That was my second time. That was your first time. And it was at Darkness that we met up with a lot of great people in the beer community.
Sure did. So Zach, who we've been communicating with from 513 Craft Brew Cincy, met up with us there because we've been trying to coordinate where we're going to meet before the game, because they were going to the game too. Met us up. We did a little beer exchange there. He had some friends that came in, met up and just had a cool time, man. We just hung out and tried some stuff. Again, my first time, so I'm just kind of looking around like, oh, this place is amazing. Oh, look at that, and look at this, and look at that. Taking all these kinds of pictures. But it was a cool vibe, man. It was really cool, and a lot going on because there were a lot of people coming in that we're meeting and sharing beers with and things. But it went by pretty quickly. But it was a really cool vibe, and I really liked the place. It's another place I want to go back to and spend a little more time in.
Oh, I agree. And shout out to Zach and Cincinnati and all the gang, the beer community that we got to meet up with. And I was really excited because my friend Dave Brinker
That's right, Dave. Yeah, that's right, Dave.
Dave, known him forever. He met us there because he was going to the Reds game, and Dave is a lot. I'm almost embarrassed to even tell people how many years I've known that guy. Almost virtually all my life. We went through kindergarten again. I mean, it goes back that many years. So it was cool.
He's a great dude too. I've hung out with him twice. He's just a great dude.
Yeah, and he came, and I laughed because he had a Cleveland Indians jersey on. But I also remember that it was a Ricky Vaughn jersey from Major League, and he's a big, as I am too, and you are, a Major League fan of that movie. And so it was kind of funny. It's like, Dave, you're going to a Reds game. Why do you have? Okay, that makes sense. Ricky Vaughn, Cleveland. Yeah. So it was great. So we had a lot of great beer there at Darkness. And again, talk about the ambience of Darkness. Your first time there.
Cool, man. The artwork, just the stuff on the walls was cool. Like a lot of Star Wars themed stuff. I mean, one of the beers was called Ray Gun. Another one was Han Rolo.
Which I had, which I rated a brown ale, and I rated that pretty high. So that was really good. And also had their Explore Mixed Berry Amber Sour and Man on the Moo, which was they were all really good. So
everything's good. Yeah, just the decor is cool. Everything kind of theme. I don't know if it's all Star Wars, but there's a lot of Star Wars stuff in the Darkness thing. The theme just thrives throughout. Again with the stuff on the walls and just a cool vibe. And I think everybody that goes in there knows it's cool. Like it's just a cool thing. If you're here, you're cool kind of thing. So.
Well, and it's kind of a small family-owned brewery there, and it's in an older building. But I mean, they usually have about 8 beers on tap there. They have a food truck out in the front, and they also have another area where I think certain times during the year, and maybe that night, where you can go in. They got bands coming in for music and everything. So I would say all day, every day, if you've not been to Darkness, go to Darkness over in Bellevue, Kentucky. That place is legit.
It's legit, and the beer was not just the names of the beer. The beer was really damn good too.
Yes,
so I got to sample several of them. So it was, cool spot. It's a shame we hadn't gone before, but we know that's a priority kind of every time from here on out.
We do,
at least, it's fantastic. So glad we finally got there. I'm glad I finally got there.
Well, the first time I went there, that was another one where I was sort of in a hurry and was in there for like 40-45 minutes, getting a quick beer and getting out. So it was just cool to spend more time in there this particular time, taking in more of their beer.
Yeah. No, cool spot. I just again, another one I recommend and checked off the list. I feel good about going to these places when you get to a lot of places that you want to go to. That was high on the list, and say, okay, we did that one too. Awesome.
Yeah, we took Darkness off the list, so we pre-gamed there, and we went to the Reds game and saw another Reds victory that night. That was fantastic. I hadn't had this one for a while, and I know even though they're no longer in business, their beer is still being distributed. I had the Gavel Banger from Tap Brewing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually had a new one over there, too. It was Hopperteric IPA from Brink. I found another one over there I hadn't had at the Reds game.
All right.
Hopperteric over there. So that was great. And I know I had another one after that. I don't know what it was. It wasn't new, so I just left it.
That's okay. And I may have had some cheese conies from Skyline Chili at the game, by the way.
What's funny is because I was thinking the other day, I thought, Steve, we only stopped at Skyline once, but you got Skyline more than once. So you found a way.
I did.
You found a way.
I always do. Where there's a will, there's a way, and Skyline Chili is everywhere up there. On every street corner. If you called somebody and walked out in front of your house and said, "Can you get me some Skyline?" They would probably come up. And,
no doubt.
Here's the truth right now.
And I'm not going to give real details, but I remember sitting at the game and you were kind of talking a lot of shit about the team you were beating. So I have video of not put it up or anything, but you were talking a lot of shit. You were feeling pretty good in that game.
Well, we were our friends in Cleveland who we met up with, and we'll talk about on the next trip. and they are Cleveland Guardian fans, or are they still the Indians, Keith? But yeah, so there were some bragging rights on the line. We won the Ohio Cup, and the Reds actually swept the Guardians / Indians that weekend. Yes. So go Reds.
Sure did. Good showing.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a good time all around. And then we had one last trek of the night.
I'm going to tell you begin, and then I
can't take it. I'm not sure I can take this story.
Okay. So we leave the Reds game, right? And we're going to go to March 1st, the downtown March 1st, right?
We were going to meet the Hill Tappers.
Yeah, we're just going to leave there, and we're going to walk over to March 1st, right? Because it's just right there.
Yeah, we were.
It's right. And
yeah.
So this is my recollection. So I leave, and I'm waiting outside by the bike racks for you and Dave.
Go ahead.
I'm waiting. We get separated somewhere. There's a lot of people coming out, and I'm waiting outside for Steve at the bike rack, and I don't see Steve or Dave or anything. So I go, well, I'll just walk over to March 1st because Steve knows where he's going. It's just right here. He'll find it. He's probably there already. So I get in there. I'm looking around. No Steve at all. So I'm like, he'll be here anytime, whatever. So I can only like kind of rebroadcast what you told me what happened after that. But tell us about your journey from Great American Ballpark to March 1st downtown.
I'm just going to leave it there. I ended up there.
Huh?
I ended up there on March 1st and had some beers with you guys.
Was it planes, trains, and automobiles to get to March 1st?
Well, my story goes like this. Apparently, you didn't hear me after the Reds game because we were leaving, and my buddy David, I said, I got to go use the restroom. So like, we're going to the bathroom, hang out, wait for us. And I guess you didn't hear us. So when I walked out, I'm looking around. We're like, where's Scott at? And I texted you, and you're like, walking to March 1st. I'm like, all right. So the ballpark is about a half mile or so at Fountain Square. Well, I'm really telling on myself. I'm falling on the sword here.
Come on, it's okay.
In the middle of downtown Cincinnati, it's a freaking landmark, for God's sakes. And I usually can get around anywhere. So Dave's wife was picking him up the next block. So I walk on up, and I got this is where common sense did not take over in my life. This is a night that I had no common sense whatsoever. I had my map app up on my phone, like, where you're walking, this is where it is or whatever. I knew it was on Fountain Square, but I didn't know exactly where at Fountain Square. And so, I'm walking, and I'm not paying that much attention to where I'm going as far as I cross the street. And my map app has me walking, I think it's on 4th Street or something. And I walk around the whole damn block, and I'm like, what's going on here? Where is it? Where is it?
It used to be right here.
It should be here. I had not been there before. Well, I actually had been there when it was
Rock
Bottom. So, but that was a long time ago. And so I don't know. So I'm walking, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking, I'll get there. This is fine. And I look down at my phone. Again, I'm looking more at my phone. I'm depending on more on my phone than common sense. And I think
I will say this: there are a lot of buildings around, so the signals kind of get effed up.
I'll get to that in a moment. I think a lot of times if you're using like a Waze app and it tells you go down a certain street and you realize that street is a dead end, why is Waze telling me to go that way? So you're not going to go that way? I should have done that, but no. Instead, I keep looking at it, and all of a sudden it has me walking on the other side, and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking. And by this time, I'm almost 2 blocks over. And I got so mad, so